available cash, with the balance to be funded by the sale of sales tax revenue bonds. Two other key points to remember in regard to the indoor facility: the operating costs for that indoor aquatic facility have been included in the city's long-term financial forecasting models, and no tax increases will be needed to pay for the construction of the facility.
Thank you for allowing us to share this information with you today. If you have any questions, you can email us at spellerberg@siouxfalls.org.
Questions?
Don, I'd like to start out with, good evening, everyone. My name is Bruce Danielson, a resident of Sioux Falls. I've been active in issue and candidate campaigns for almost 50 years. As a group of us began to watch the issue campaigns build, we saw serious issues with the way the 2014 Sioux Falls city election was being managed. We banded together to create a new organization to help protect the ballot process for the Sioux Falls voters. I was asked to be chairman of the group you may have now heard of, Citizens for Integrity. The city of Sioux Falls is legally allowed to only supply in written form a simple, clear language explanation of what a yes vote means and what a no vote means. That's it, nothing more, nothing less. The 4 video ballot measures being presented are not the only issues the voter must make decisions on this weekend. There are actually 7 ballot questions. Demand your city be forthright in legally presenting all of them to the people who are expected to vote on April 8th. We wish to remind you, tonight city officials will be presenting these 4 biased advocacy videos and public pronouncements disguised as education. Thank you for being interested in the process, being here this evening, and don't forget to vote on April 8th. Thank you.
When the turkey study was done last year at the Harbor meet, were there softball games going on that weekend at
Prairie.
So maybe those high numbers of traffic may bring this field a little higher because of softball games?
Yeah, we understand that there were softball games going as well as shelter reservations happening in that park at that same time, and but we can't
filter those out.
Yeah, don't know. The counters don't differentiate, right?
So the number,
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
the numbers could be higher than that.
Yeah, I think they are high, but we want to be conservative with the rest.
Thank you.
This one.
Okay, so the no vote means that it would automatically be an indoor bill, right? Or would it mean that it would stay the same?
The council would have to ultimately ratify that. They have an indoor aquatic facility in the capital program in this current fiscal year, but there's still another action by them approving the sale of the sales tax.
No, but I guess I'm sorry, Jim, so I didn't mean the question here. On this right here, if I would vote no, that would automatically say that I'm voting for the indoor pool? Is that what this is saying?
You could potentially interpret it that way, but I just want to be clear that the indoor facility has been appropriated in the budget, and the consultant's recommendation, as you saw in the video, recommended that it be placed at Spellerberg, but realized that the city council still needs to take some additional action to make that happen. So that's all I can say on that because of.
So in other words, you don't know what the no vote means then?
Go ahead.
Well, if you look at the ballot, a no vote is against the initiative.
Is against the,
It's against an outdoor.
but the way that this is presented as an outdoor or an indoor. So is the voting against the outdoor automatically mean that we're going to see an indoor pool there?
I think you already answered that.
Well, no, I didn't understand the
The
answer.
city council would still have to approve.
So then it would mean that there would,
There's another step that would have to be done.
okay, so in other words, if we vote no, then that nothing will be done to that area then.
No, that's not necessarily correct.
Okay, that's not clear to me what the no vote means.
Sorry.
Is the current outdoor pool at Spellerberg in need of restoration or replacement at some time, or is it okay the way it is?
It's been a challenge, I would say, over the last 10 to 15 years. It's been one of those pools that is you never know what you're gonna find every time you go to get it operational. There's a whole list of things that are challenges with it. In the past, we've had to dig up the bottom of the pool to repair water lines that have separated, that caused the pool to leak extensively. It doesn't meet many of the codes that are currently in place right now. There's no water, there's no thermostat on the water heater, there's the filters themselves are very thin walled because they continue to rust out. There's lots of ADA issues that are grandfathered in because of its current facility. And so it is one of the more challenging pools to deal with, and any attempt to renovate it would be not a good investment because of the amount of repairs that would be required. Did that answer your question?
No. And in other words, it sounds to me like it's in need of something, either replacement or fixing or whatever, although it doesn't sound like the city has provided to do that, except to build an indoor pool there, which would take the outdoor problem away. So I'm just kind of thinking, well, if that outdoor pool needs work and an outdoor pool is actually built there, a new one, then what happens with the indoor pool project?
If the result of the vote is a yes vote on the outdoor pool, the city council will be directed to build an outdoor pool at that location. As a reminder, as you saw in the financing plan, an outdoor pool is not considered as part of our 5-year capital program. And so in that case, the council would have to appropriate additional funding, and they would also have to amend the capital improvement plan to include that indoor facility, or excuse me, outdoor facility.
But the indoor one has still been approved, but it would have to find a different place to be built.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say.
Okay.
Charlie, you were next.
Trying to get everything straight. I know there are people from the swim team here, and we're not against an indoor swimming pool. We are against the location. The parking is very misleading because they're saying parking on the park side. Drive down Western Avenue, those are no parking signs. Go down 22nd Street on the park side, from about halfway down the park, no parking signs. Go up 26th Street, almost to the top of the sledding hill, no parking. The south side, no parking. So that's an issue. The money was in the right-hand pocket about 8 years ago. And then somebody said, no, let's put it in the other pocket. So now there is no money for the outdoor pool. They've simply placed it in the other pocket. When you vote yes, it's for the outdoor pool. That's not the end of it, because I was assured by some individual in this room that there would still be meetings afterwards. The swim team could start a petition, and God only knows, we'd all vote for it. Let's build that pool. We, the people in Spellerberg, would not wish it on anybody. If you want it in your park, okay, we'll sign it. That's fine by us. But it's like the same thing that the people in Walmart, they didn't want it in their neighborhood. The people down there didn't want it in their neighborhood. But Walmart found a nice spot out there, and nobody opposed it, so there's no reason. When it goes back, all the council would have to do is say, oh, let's put it back in the other pocket. So they've got the money, it's there, it's just a matter of changing it around as they've done before. And instead of borrowing 13 million, the difference between what's been spent out or taken, it's still less money. Swim teams have had or indoor pool, or whatever you want to call it, have had since 2008 to raise funds privately, to generate funds, to do whatever. And now, when we want to keep our park, they suddenly come up with $25,000 to fight the thing. How much better if they'd have used it on the positive instead of the negative?
Go ahead.
I have a question. How much did it cost to build Drake Springs back in 2009 or 10?
It could not exceed 4.7 million.
4.7 million, and that was on a blank site, right? Because they moved it across the street from where it was. Is $7.5 million enough to tear out everything there and put in a pool? Because I realize that nobody here that was involved in the development process, process of the aquatic master plan, had a number. And I know from taking my children to Drake Springs, it's way undersized, it's too small, you get there and you can't walk in because it's so small. I'm wondering, is $7.5 million, because we're talking about the ballot issue, is $7.5 million really enough to develop that site and make it something new and usable?
Well, the only thing I can tell you is it has to be enough, because that's the only thing we're allowed to spend on the project.
Sir?
Go ahead.
Well, I want to say I was involved with the Drake Springs petition drive. And first of all, for the record, when we were not against an indoor pool, but we wanted a traditional outdoor pool. And I was at Inside Kello taping this morning, and when they had Susie Kirkpatrick there, and John Matthias was there, and they show the plan is similar to Drake Springs. So it's like they're giving Drake Springs a dirty name. It's the four-letter word that's being propped up to, this is what an outdoor pool is about. And we didn't want that. We wanted just a plain pool. Other communities in South Dakota have built plain pools for less than $5 million. We did not ask for all the plastic and Don, I met with Don and Mayor Dave Munson right after the vote, the week after, remember? And we said we would like a plain pool. We did. I have witnesses who were there. Glenn Jamgard was there. The people who we got the petitions from said, we want a plain pool. But it was just discarded. And so whatever we come up with here, whatever the vote is, I think that the city has to be responsive to the people. It's not just your idea, Don. It's not just Mayor Mike's idea. This is about what belongs to the people of our community. And that's what I have a problem with.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you look at it, Drake Springs has the highest attendance of any of the pools in Sioux Falls, with 80,000. A plain pool that's at Spellerberg now has 20,000 people coming. So is it really what the people of Sioux Falls want to have a plain outdoor pool?
But they would want us to teach PF.
That would be my question. And I guess my other point would be that we have a professional park and rec department that does a very good job of all of the parks that we have in Sioux Falls. We can all agree that we have beautiful parks in Sioux Falls. And I think that, that you guys do a great job with that. We're looking at a 18-acre park in Spellerberg, and the indoor pool would remain, still leave 15 acres of that available as green space or white space, as the case may be, given the snow that we have today.
The park isn't 18
And
acres.
so when you're looking at how to fit and make an indoor pool fit in a nice way into the park at Spellerberg, how can you respond to the question of how you guys would, went about, or how you think that it would fit into that park in a way that would make it still a nice park?
Well, one of the things that the consultant has done is that he has really tried to make sure that the profile of the pool is as low as it possibly can be. Plan to use it put it in the side of the hill. There's a big grade change from the center of the park up to the northern third of the park. And so a lot of that area that really is not very usable because of the steep slope there, they would build into that side of that hill in order to lower the profile of the building. And so obviously we heard that during our neighborhood meetings, that we wanted to make sure that it was aesthetically pleasing in the park. And I think the consultants have done a good job of that.
They did not, when you say that.
Charlie, you have to sit down and there's other people waiting.
But you just made a lie. You said that's a steep hill. That's where Nike has their cross-country meets. That's where the junior high schools run. That's where the junior football league meets, that's where the Pee Wee baseball meets up there, and I apologize for being rude, but that was not the truth.
I'm sorry, but it's 6:30, we have to start this.
Looks good for you, Don, doesn't it?
Hey, Don.
My name's John.
All right, good evening. Thanks again for being here tonight. My name's Dean Borkert. I'm with the Public Works Department. We will now be watching the Snowgate Initiative ballot issue video, and after that, I'll take your questions.
Hello, I'm Galen Hubert, the Street Fleet Manager for Public Works. Today I'd like to talk to you about two things. One is the ballot question on snowgates that you're going to see in April, and the other is how we went about over the last 3 winters testing, and then also the results of those snowgate tests that we did do. So let's start out with the ballot question. This is the wording that the city received along with the signatures on the initiative to implement snowgates. This is what you will see on the ballot in April. And just a brief explanation on what this means. If the voters approve this initiated measure, then the city would use snowgate devices to aid in snow removal program for streets within the city of Sioux Falls. A vote yes is for the use of snowgates in the city's snow removal program. A vote no is against the use of snowgates in the city snow removal program. So let's talk about how we went through and tested snowgates, and then we'll get into the results of those tests. First of all, what is a typical winter in Sioux Falls? A typical winter is approximately 43 inches of snow, which means I have to plow off the city approximately 5 times. So what is a snow alert then when I do declare a snow alert? A snow alert means that we go in and we plow every street within the city of Sioux Falls. There's approximately 3,000 lane miles within the city of Sioux Falls, and it takes just under 30 hours to plow off the city on an average basis. As you can see from this slide, this is the 3 winters that we actually tested snowgates, and you can see the first winter was a very typical winter for us, in which we had 6 snowers and we had 45.6 inches of snow. The other 2 winters were a lot less snow than what we normally would receive. We also tried to take a look at when we were using snowgates. We tried to spread it out throughout the entire city. We tried to go into mature areas of town where the streets are a little bit narrower. We also tried to go to the outer city limits of the city where the streets are a little bit wider and the lots are a little bit larger. We also tried to get different types of configuration of streets, hilly streets, streets with curves, flat streets. Also, we could get a good measure of how snowgates would work. And over the 3-year process, we basically tested 20% of the city streets with snowgates. So what did we consider when we were out using the snowgates? First of all, we want to know the snow amount per event, the type of snow, and by that I mean if it's a wet snow or a dry snow, the total snow accumulation for the event, and then again we get into the street characteristics as far as narrow streets, wider streets, how wide the driveway is, the spacing between driveways, and then the type of equipment that we use as far as the snowgates themselves, and then the operator experience. One other thing that we took a look at was the private contractors. Private contractors provide 40% of our snow removal operation during a snow alert. And so we had to take a look at their coordination as far as shifting, communications, fueling, and their repair maintenance. So what did we learn from snowgates? We found out that it does effectively reduce snow in driveways and intersections up to a certain amount of snow. Normally that point for us in Sioux Falls is right about 6 inches. Anything below 6 inches, they work very effectively. Above 6 inches, the efficiency went down. Also the difference between wet snow and dry snow. Dry snow we were able to blade off with snow gates a lot easier than wet snow. Wet snow tended to hang up in the blade, and it was harder for it to discharge away from the blade. And then again, cul-de-sacs are hard without snow gates, and with some snow gates it added another challenge for us. The other thing that we also seen was that streets would be narrow throughout the winter using snow gates. We also seen that using our 6-wheel drive motor graders was essential to make sure that we were able to push the snow as close to the curb as we could. And then also the operator effectiveness improved greatly with experience. Each year that we tested, I used the same operators, and every year they became more efficient on how they were able to operate the snow gates. And then also the teamwork that's required with contractors. We tested 2 different types of snow gates during this 3-year process, and the Hinky snow gates performed the best. They allowed us to get to the curb the closest. They were engineered so they fit our moldboard better, and it allowed us to also clean the gutter pan better than with the other snow gate. What are the snow gate opportunities that you'll see? Snow gates do reduce snow in the driveways. Snow gates do reduce the snow in the intersections. As we go through the intersection, we'll close the gate and pull the snow all the way through instead of leaving the windrow and discharge it when we get on the other side. And then we did receive a lot of positive feedback from the public on snow gates. What are some of the risks that we may experience with snow gates? It's going to increase our time. We have to drive slower with snow gates in order to keep the snow in the blade. And there's also potential for more breakdowns because snow gates have hydraulic hoses and parts in them that can break down, so it could add to the delays, and then also the logistics of working with contractors and snow gates. Another one of the risks that we may experience is narrowing of the streets. What type of risk would this cause? Certainly our main goal is safety, and not only for the driving public, but also for the first responders out there. We want to make sure that the streets are wide enough so they can get their equipment through the street, especially like fire trucks. The other thing it may do is it may cause us to eliminate on-street parking during the winter if the streets do get too narrow. It will cause us to have to do a lot more plowbacks because of narrow streets, and with drifting, the drifts will come out onto the driving lanes a lot quicker, which means we'll have to react to it. And some of the things that we're seeing right now, as we get snow melt, the inlets are plugged and the water doesn't have any place for it to basically to leave the street. And we're going to have to go out and open up those inlets to physically get the water to drain off the streets. So those are some of the risks that you may experience with narrowing streets. Some of the flexibilities that we may have to have with snow gates is limiting their use. We may have to limit their use if we receive a snow event of over 6 inches. Again, we want to make sure that the streets are clean and safe once we go through them. And we were experiencing situations with over 6 inches of snow that there's so much snow going over the blade and around the blade, it didn't even look like we were plowing. So we may have to limit it with more than 6 inches of snow. And also in streets where the snow is starting to narrow it, we may have to eliminate using snow gates on certain streets during the winter season. The test data has 2 concerns. One of them is that 2 of the 3 years were very mild winters, and we didn't get a lot of data from those 2 mild winters. And the actual financial results may vary based on winter conditions and identifiable variables within the winter. What did we consider as far as costs when we were looking at snow gates? We looked at the plowing costs, which includes fueling, labor, materials, and then the initial cost of purchasing the snow gates, and then thirdly, the cost of picking up the snow. What we found out from the data once we collected it as far as fuel consumption goes, depending on the type of snow, if we have a really dry snow, we had very little additional fuel consumption with snow gates. As we got heavier and wetter snow, the fuel consumption did increase with the use of snow gates. Operational times were showing that same type of curve. If we had dry snow, it wasn't taking us that much longer to do this entire city with snow gates versus the heavy wet snow when we had to go and plow the city out. It took longer. And then again, that associates along with the time. We can plow the city out normally in less than 30 hours. With snow gates, it's probably going to take us a little over 30 hours. What are the estimated costs for operating snow gates within the city? There's a one-time cost of purchasing the snow gates, and we estimate that we'll need 33
with each individual contractor, and they would have a choice to either attach it to their blade and run in pair with their own tandem, or we would attach it to our blade and one of their individuals would work with us.
One other question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you describe what the operator of that grader has to do as he's going along? You know, I'm thinking about, you know, you're driving, you got a left and a right foot. Give me some details of what goes on in the cab.
You know, I guess the controls for the motor graders that they are today are really a joystick control for operations. Our operators are pretty much trained on these items, you know, and we're using the same type of equipment. The biggest transition we had was the transition from a steering wheel to that joystick control.
So that's the turning mechanism.
That's the turning operational as well as the throttle. This is just another button as far as from an operational of lifting that snow gate up and down. It isn't a major issue. And that's what we've taken this season to do. We did not do testing this season. Once it hit the initiative, we actually took this season to train additional operators on that. So each snow event that we've had different people behind each of our 6 current snow gates to give them an opportunity to work them.
So just so I understand, the joystick is the turning mechanism, left, right, forward, back.
Correct.
And you also said throttle is...
Well, it's all built, all the controls are now, other than a brake on the floor, are all built into your, that joystick control.
So is there a button to raise that snow gate?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you, I've never operated it, so I can't answer that, but I believe I don't believe it is a major change from where we're at. It's just a matter of getting training and getting behind what we have.
And being physically aware of what you're doing every 200 feet.
I think that's imperative every time that we're out in one of these motor graders. That doesn't change the fact that we have a snow gate attached to it.
How many snow gates do you currently have?
We have 6 snow gates currently.
Okay. And you mentioned the fact that the more you use the snow gates, the narrower the street becomes. Is that correct?
It can get narrower. I mean, I guess it depends on the situation, it depends on the snow event. It doesn't mean in a year like this where if there's no snow existing in that gutter pan right now as we go out and we work, you know, then you're plowing it directly there. It's where it gets to be piled up over a period of time with increased or larger snows, then you can get an area that we experienced and you saw in the video where the streets did narrow.
So then the hydraulics of the draining of the city could be hampered in some way with that snow gates.
The hydraulics
of the drain off to the.
You mean the storm gates? The
storm.
Correct. I mean, if that street narrows, you're going to have and the snow piles up in that gutter pan, you would have to pound or remove or clear that storm drain. Correct.
So then, in the fall, when we have a leaf problem, how crucial is it to get the leaves out of there?
I mean, it's the intention to have, obviously, those leaves picked up in the fall with the fall street sweeping that occurs. You know, I guess it's imperative every year, and I don't know that it ties in with that snow gate issue because it's really more of a drainage issue from the standpoint of those leaves, if they're laying there, would probably cause a problem whether or not we had a snow gate.
Probably true. However, I can see how it could add to the problem.
Yes, ma'am.
I live on a corner, so I've got 2 sidewalks going to the street, and I have to clear those. And they're the wheelchair accessible ones, so it seems like they're a lot bigger than the standard. Do the snow gates clear that as they would a driveway? or is there still gonna be the same?
You know, it depends on the intersection and the pattern we go with. Would be the intention as we plow through the intersection, we're gonna drop it before we get to that intersection to hold in as much snow as possible and take that directly through. Where you would see it is if we would round that corner completely, we would try and drop and drag that away, pending that we don't have a driveway or an area right around that corner that we really need to make sure we can avoid it. I mean, ultimately, we're not going to try and pile snow on those corners unless there's a driveway or something right around there that would impede it. But ultimately, yes, it would improve around those corners and the intersections to the best of our ability with the use of the snow gate there yet too. Yes, sir.
Can you name several cities the size or larger cities that have been contacted that have used snow gates? I heard a little bit about this early on, that they checked with some cities, Minneapolis being one of them. How much groundwork was done to see how this has gone in other communities?
You know, we've talked, Fargo was probably the closest one that, or Bismarck, is Bismarck? Sorry. I point to Teresa, she's done a lot of conversations as well. Bismarck is probably the closest community that we've dealt with. I know there was another city, you know, I guess I don't have a list of those as far as from a standpoint, but I think the biggest thing I can tell you is, you know, the data shows from our standpoint that we certainly have now tested them here, and we don't need to just rely on outside data to look at it. I mean, ultimately what we've seen is the impact probably isn't as big financially as we thought it was going to be prior to the test. Yes, ma'am.
If there are parked cars that don't get moved during the snow alert, does the snow gate clear those? Or
You know,
do you just go right around it anyway?
Either way, we're going to try. I mean, today, obviously, if there's a car parked there, we plow around it, and that car is plowed in. You know, there again, we're going to try and minimize the impact with the snow gate in that area, but you know, that's another impediment, I'm going to call it, as they're trying to plow that street. You know, they've got to watch that gate, so then you can get further and further out as you drop that gate around the car. I mean, ultimately, that's why we try and announce it early so we can get those cars off the street. There again, ultimately the challenge being if you drop that gate and try and plow around it, you want to make sure there's adequate clearance so you don't damage the vehicle yet too.
How much time again?
One more question.
Okay. Go ahead. I want to ask a question, and that's, it seems to me if the snow gates are being used or approved, that city residents will have a certain amount of expectation that the driveways will be reasonably clear. As with anything, I know you guys can, you know, once in a while you can miss a street or whatever. What is going to be the policy for, I call them callbacks, if a resident doesn't feel that their driveway wasn't clean as they expected it to be?
Well, I guess I think it's fairly clear that we state that it's not going to, not in every event is your driveway going to be 100% clear. It's the intention to try and maintain that, but we can't guarantee it doesn't boil over. I guess it's going to be, I mean, is there a policy? I mean, obviously we can't determine what that driveway is without going out to look at it. I mean, ultimately, we would have to evaluate that on a case-by-case basis, but by no means are we going to guarantee that with the use of snow gates, you'll never have anything at the end of your driveway. We can guarantee that it'll be minimized comparatively.
I'll make one last statement. I've taken a 30-minute walk in my southern Sioux Falls community. Walk it every day. I counted the number of mailboxes. In 30 minutes, I counted 35 mailboxes that would be affected. I called the postmaster. Mailmen are not required to get out of their truck to deliver mail. I've also counted 5 fire hydrants. I happen to have one that's only got about 20 feet between the driveways at my place. I wind up moving the snow away from the fire hydrant. Now, when that thing comes by, it's gonna
Hello, I'm Mike
dump right
Cooper,
next to
Director
the
of
fire
Planning and
hydrant.
Building Services
So I
for
guess what I'm
Sioux
saying is that if they
Today
have
I'll
to
be
go out and
talking
move it
about
from our
referendum on
mailboxes,
commercial
or if
zoning
we have to move it from
at
the
the
fire
corner of
hydrant,
85th Street
we're
in
not really
Minnesota.
gaining much. And the last thing is,
Last fall, the city council passed an ordinance of the city of Sioux Falls, rezoning property at the southwest corner of 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue from agricultural to the planned commercial, office, and recreation conservation districts. The ballot will have a yes or no vote available. If you support the commercial zoning taking effect at 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue, a yes vote is in favor and a no vote is against. The area shown is the 39-acre site at 85th and Minnesota Avenue that was rezoned to the commercial, office, and recreation conservation districts. This is in the southwest corner of the intersection of those two streets.
We put cameras on place and we counted all the traffic coming into and out of.
And did I not see the traffic counter inside the park after the swim pool was closed?
Yes, after the pool was closed. After it closed.
Oh, we're not talking about.
What are we talking about? We're not talking traffic.
And they're all quoting the very same thing. Even your cute little stories are coming out. Everything's coming from Park and Rec. That conception, whatever you want, rendering of some sort, was a joke. The thing, you didn't do anything to make it, to minimize it. The bathhouse and all the structure around it is 2 stories. It's huge, it's ugly. And as far as building into the hill, you said from day one you're doing it to hide the building. But the fact is it's still going to be 12 feet above ground. And it's going to go from that hill starts at about 23rd and Western, and it's going to go south about a block and a half. It's going to be 17 bathhouses, and I don't care who likes that or not. 17 of the bathhouses that are there, 4,000 square feet. 17 of them lined up going into that hill. And if you want to make it real, take 17 more and make it a 22-story or 22-foot building, which is what you said it's going to be. So don't claim that this thing is going to be no bigger than what's there now. It obviously is. The pool alone is, what is it, 13,500 or whatever, compared to a pool that's there that's less than 7,000. Of course it's going to be bigger. You know, quit trying to hide this thing. It's not going to be there. You have flipped everything. You've gone to a whole new message for 2014. You're in denial. 2 to 3 swim meets. That's a joke. I have grave doubts that Sioux Falls is going to sit here while Rapid City, Aberdeen, Madison, Watertown, Pierre, and all the other towns get the swim meets, and Sioux Falls is going to say, hey, we're good with these 2 or 3. We don't want any more. But those first days in May of 2012, all you said was it's an economic boom. It's going to be such a great impact for the economic status of Sioux Falls. Nobody argued with that.
Can I talk about
Can I
that?
finish?
As soon as you're done.
Thank you very much.
You bet. You bet.
No one's disagreeing with making money off this facility. In fact, it's going to be so expensive. We want to make all the money we can off of it. All we're saying is the price is too high to put it into Spellerberg. $20 million to build it. And your rendering, by the way, was 18,000 square feet bigger than it was when Councilman Hunziker left in March of 2013. So a minimum of $20,000 for that. It's going to be $700,000 to $1 million a year for the city to keep that place open because it's not going to make money. There isn't enough parking. It's a standalone facility. And in Business 101, these places don't make it. So all of these reasons are against it, and you just keep digging in and minimizing all the information. The real information is not getting out there to the public. No one's talking about, everyone makes a joke out of those detention ponds. It's not a joke to the people who live there and don't want to see their basement personal belongings floating out to first floor. It's not a joke. Yes, it's a sledding hill, but it's a detention pond. It's a drainage issues too about. You need to do the facts. You need to do the real homework, do a feasibility study. And you're going to find that it's not going to be the correct site. Put this thing where it's going to make money for Sioux Falls.
Thank you. when we talk about this, one of the things that I look at, all this infighting and stuff like that is, in Watertown, they go and they approve a indoor rec center with a pool that the whole community can use for $24 million. And they have a population of approximately, what we have, maybe 20,000 people. You know, we're talking in a metro area here of 150 to 170. I'm not sure what it is, but roughly somewhere in there. And we're talking about the quality of life for all of us. Not just one little thing